Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'll be that weirdo that sings good morning to you. Hey, welcome. Good to see your faces. Something we say that you might have seen coming in is we have this sign that asks people to use name tags. We say names are important to us, and wouldn't you know, we ran out of name tags this week. But I promise names are still important to us. So we're just going to have to introduce ourselves the old-fashioned way this morning. I'll start. My name is Katie. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the worship director here at the Grove Cottage Grove, and I'm so grateful for your presence here today, both in person and online. And now I'm going to ask you to do a silly thing that we do sometimes when we go lead worship for youth groups. Everybody's going to introduce themselves at the exact same time. So I'm going to count to 3, and then you're going to tell everyone your name, okay? 1, 2, 3.
Pat.
Great. Now we all know each other. No, really. Sorry we ran out of name tags today, but please introduce yourselves the old-fashioned way to each other. Even if you are the type of person like me that's going to forget the person's name like 3 seconds later, it still matters, okay? So, all right. Glad you're here. Let's start by singing together. Oh, you know what? Actually, no. Change of plans. We have guest singers today from our Woodbury campus. We're so grateful they're here, and Pat is going to share a song with us today, and you all just get to sit and enjoy.
I've been looking for peace of mind. I've been looking for a reason why. This aching in my soul has torn me in two. Trouble I've been feeling tries to weigh me down. Wish I could break through that ceiling and find my way out. When I can't catch my breath and there's nothing left to hold on to, I'm holding on to you. The sun is gonna rise once again. This is the hope that I believe in. All of this trouble I've been feeling, it won't weigh me down. I'm gonna break through that ceiling and find my way out. When I can't catch my breath and there's nothing left to hold on to, I'm holding on to you, my Lord. Though my strength may fail, no, my heart is held by you. I see a new sunrise, and all of this trouble I've been feeling could never keep me down. 'Cause your grace is my healing, and you're here with me now. When I can't catch my breath and there's nothing left to hold on to, I'm holding on to you. My breath and there's nothing left to hold on to, I'm holding on to you. Whoa, whoa, I'm holding on to you. Sun is gonna rise once again.
Well, good morning. delayed and off to the left, but I appreciate it. My name is Jeremy. I'm the pastor here of the Grove, Cottage Grove, and it's so good to be with you on this crisp autumn morning. Last week it was 90 degrees. Today it is not 90 degrees. I prefer this when it's fall, but regardless, whatever the temperature might be, we're so excited for you to be here with us today. We are a brand new church that exists to grow goodness, and so we hope that you're being here in the room this morning, you're watching with us online, you're somehow interacting with us out in the community during the week, is somehow nurturing healing, wholeness, and beauty in your life just as a result of that. As you came in this morning, you should have received one of these worship handouts. I'm going to direct your attention to that and a couple things in it just as we get going this morning. As you open it up, there's some of the most important information that you want to know about the church, how we're all new at this, our values. At the bottom of that first page, there's information about giving, either giving by check or physical money that you can place in the basket at the back of the worship center, or giving online, or giving via Venmo as well to make all of this possible. Also inside of the worship handout is an insert. This insert allows us to know that you are here today. So if you are here for the first time, or if you've been here quite a while and you just want to let us know that you're here today, or you're requesting specific information, you can fill that out. On the backhand side, there are boxes so that if there are specific things that you're looking for information about, you can check those boxes. The ways that you prefer to be contacted, if you want to be contacted, there's also even a place for you to share prayer requests. Then on the backhand side of the worship handout, we have the three most important things. This is a new month, which means three more things that we are really trying to key in on as a church in the month ahead. I'm not going to give you all of that information now. We'll get that at the end of the gathering. But if you're interested in some of those details now, you are more than welcome to look at them by looking at that link or scanning the QR codes that go along with them. Back to the inside on the second page, this has information about our children's ministry here at the Grove. Kids are highly valued members of our church. It's not just that we allow them to be here. They are highly valued members of our church, and we like to make space for them to feel like they are valued members. So here in the worship center, we of course have the play area on the left-hand side for kids to be able to move their bodies. In the backs of the pews, there are coloring activities if kids or adults want to do those during the gathering. We do have a nursery, a staffed nursery, which is available just outside of the worship center in the commons area, where kids who are 6 weeks through 3 years can go and play. There's also a live stream in there, so if you need to go in there with your child, you won't miss out on anything. For the kids who are older than that, 4-year-old through 5th grade, we have Grove Kids, which we are about to send them out to in just a few moments. If, however, this is your first time with us today, your first time sending the kids out, also in the back of the pews, we have these cards. We would just ask you to fill out these registration cards so that we can have their information, your contact information, and then if there's any things like allergies that we need to be considering. Okay. So with that, we are going to sing those kids off to Grove Kids. Already. Yeah. Woohoo!
Jesus loves the little children, all the children of the world. Every color, shape, and type, they are precious in His sight. Jesus loves the little children of the world.
Okay, now we're good. Show of hands. How many of you would consider yourselves an extrovert? How many of you would raise your hand if you would consider yourself an introvert? How many of you are so much of an introvert that you refuse to raise your hand? Okay, so we're going to move at this point into what we call the introvert's least favorite part of the service. Connection point. This is an opportunity for you to be connecting with people around you and starting to build some meaningful relationships. One of the most important reasons that we gather here is to be connecting with other people. And this is a forced opportunity, both of those things. A forced opportunity for you to connect with people around you. We make it a little bit easier by just providing you with a question prompt. So in just a moment, I'm going to ask you to stand up, find somebody near you don't know or don't know very well. Introduce yourself, share your name. We don't have name tags today, but you can share your name without your name tag. And then the question prompt for today is, what is something you have trouble sharing with others? I had to clarify that this is not like your deep, dark secret that you're not wanting to share with others. This is like a tangible thing that you struggle to share with others. So my example is kettle corn. It's like one of the things that I can have for myself, kettle corn, and my kids always want kettle corn. The last time we went to the doctor, my oldest kid complained to the doctor about how I don't share my kettle corn. Like, this is my thing. You get all those other things. Kettle corn is my thing. I do not want to share it. So maybe you have something like that as well. This is going to lead directly into our topic for today. So take a moment, stand up, find somebody next to you don't know very well, introduce yourself, and then share that thing that you have trouble sharing. Share verbally that thing, that tangible thing that you have trouble sharing. We'll reconvene in a couple minutes.
Okay, you can finish up and find your way back to your places. Y'all can finish up and head back. And those of you online can drop your answer in the comments too. I find it ironic how much you all love sharing about the things that you don't want to share. That's funny. Who said some kind of candy? Oh, not as many as I thought. Okay. Snacks. All right. Thank you all for participating, for getting to know each other. Hey, tomorrow is an important day to get care at the Grove, and this is a Sunday every year where we make sure to acknowledge our history, the role we play in this country and in our history, and acknowledge our desire to want to restore and heal and make things better for the future. We actually have a land acknowledgement statement, an official one for the entire Church of the Grove, both Cottage Grove and Woodbury. And we are going to read that together today to honor our Indigenous siblings. So if you wouldn't mind, actually, and if you're comfortable, you can rise again or stand. Robin is going to lead us in this statement, and we will read it all together. And then you can remain standing.
The people of the Grove United Methodist Church acknowledge that our church sites are located on the ancestral home of the Wakpakut. Sorry. They have for generations. We acknowledge the history of trauma the Dakota due to unjust practices by the government of the United States and complicity of North American Christianity, including progenitors of the United Methodist Church. This trauma is not just historic, it is also generational and contemporary. These unjust practices are inconsistent with the Grove's mission to grow goodness. We acknowledge the sanctity of Dakota heritage, their connection to the land, and their unique ability to serve as examples of land stewardship, as well as supportive, connected communities. The Grove United Methodist Church, and listen to their stories and learn how we can help address the errors of the past and make a better today and tomorrow for Indigenous people.
Actually, you can remain standing. Let's pray. God and Spirit of all, we recognize that spirituality and connection to the divine is much bigger than just our modern American Christian context. We realize you come before us and you go beyond us. Help us to open our hearts to all the beautiful expressions of spirituality in this world. Today, specifically, as we remember the Indigenous people who were here first, we honor them and thank them for teaching us that many expressions of you live all around and through us. May we loosen our grip of the need to have all the answers or to arrive at a certain spiritual destination. Instead, may we be reminded by our Indigenous siblings to deepen our curiosity and sense of awe, weaving ourselves into the rhythms of this world and remaining open to the many ways you present yourself to us. Forgive us for the harmful systems we have created that continue to hurt these people. Help us continue down a path of reconciliation and restoration, as imperfect as it might be. And may they find the strength to forgive us too. Now, with your eyes closed, I invite you all, congregation, to put one or both hands on your heart. You can put the other hand on your belly, or if you're standing next to someone that you're close with, you can hold hands if that's comfortable. Practicing physical connection. We pause for a moment to breathe. And remember and connect to one another, past and present, to our bodies, to this earth, and to all manifestations of you. Amen. God our Father, giver of daily bread, blessing our hands and covering our head. God our Mother, leading us into peace, drawing and comforting all those in need. Hallowed, hallowed be thy name. Hallowed, hallowed be thy name. Hallowed, hallowed be thy name in all the Jesus, brother, guiding our every step, deliver us and grant places of rest. Jesus, Savior, grabbing us from the grave, cheating the fallen, breathing the light of day. Hallowed, hallowed be thy name. Hallowed, hallowed be thy
Have you ever noticed how kids' stories, whether they are books or movies or TV show, are often much better at communicating the exact same things compared to adult stories? You ever notice that? Like, we adults, we often get caught up in having all of the details right and saying things like as flatly as possible. And we might be a little bit artsy, but often that art is like hard to understand and we need someone to interpret it for us. And we try to use these big fancy words. And kids' stories don't do that. Like they try to make it as easy to understand as possible, simple as possible, short and to the point, but doing so in like an entertaining way. And so you end up with something like Aussie healer with blue fur named Bluey, who tells all these great stories, and even the adults really love them, and the kids can understand them, and it's way more fun and way more entertaining and way more easier to understand for everybody because kids aren't worried about those things. And just like throwing in some random characters, often animal characters, can make it easier to understand and to grasp and to know what to do with. I was reminded of that this summer. In August, we had our Campfire Stories series where we took these old stories from the Bible and we retold them. And before I got up to preach, we had someone from the congregation come and read a story to the kids in a way that was specifically targeted for the kids. And I got to tell you, every single week I got up after that and I'm like, I don't know why I'm here, because I'm not going to beat that. I'm not going to make it any easier to understand, or definitely not more entertaining than what the rest of us just heard. I was also reminded of that this past week as I was preparing for today, and I was reminded of a book that hit on today's theme really well. And so I'm actually going to read you this children's book, which is about seals who have their own rock. And this book is called Room on Our Rock. Have any of you ever heard of this book? Okay, one person. Well, I'm going to introduce you to Room on Our Rock. There is no room on our rock. So it's ridiculous to say there's space for plenty more. Shoo, go away. You'll never hear us say, "You're welcome here." This rock is ours. Go back to your own. You know you can't. Make our rock your home. This is no place to be. You have to leave right now. As you can plainly see, now turn around. The end. It's a good message, right? The end. Nice and to the point, but you throw some seals in there. That's like a message, right? Interestingly enough, I think far more often than we would like to admit, we function within that kind of headspace and that mentality. That, sure, we're willing to welcome everybody, but what is that actually going to take? Do we actually have the capacity to do that? Or are we willing to do that? This is kind of the message that we've been hitting on throughout this series. We've been going through this series over the last 5 weeks called Crowded Table. And like the tagline for Crowded Table is making room for everyone. But when you get down to it, room for everyone. Everyone is what? A lot of people. And a lot of different kind of people. And so one of the obvious questions after that is, can we actually welcome everyone? Do we actually want to welcome everyone? Are we capable of welcoming everyone, or do we need to make sure that we have what we need for ourselves? These are the types of questions that we've covered over and over again over the last 5 weeks and that we're hitting on again today. Throughout this series, we've been looking at these stories from Jesus in the book of Luke. Luke is one of the 4 biographies about the life of Jesus that we have in our Bible. And repeatedly, we've been going to these stories where Jesus is sharing meals with somebody. To share a meal with somebody in the ancient world was no small thing. It was called table fellowship. You were only willing to share a meal with someone that you were okay with being seen with and aligning yourself with. And so time and time again, we see Jesus sharing these meals with people that a lot of people weren't comfortable with him sharing meals with. And so today we tackle that question of everyone? We're making room for everyone? Do we actually have the ability, the capability of making room for everyone, or do we first need to worry about ourselves? So the story for today, again, is in the Gospel according to Luke, one of the 4 biographies about the life of Jesus, and this is in Luke 9, 1 through 17. It's a little bit longer than usual, but it's going to be up here on the screen for you to follow along with me. After Jesus called the 12 together, he gave them power and authority over all demons and to cure diseases, and he sent them out to proclaim the kingdom of God and to heal the sick. He said to them, "Take nothing for your journey, no staff, no bag, no bread, no money, and do not take an extra tunic. Whatever house you enter, stay there until you leave the area. Wherever they do not receive you, as you leave that town, shake the dust off your feet as a testimony against them." Then they departed and went throughout the villages, proclaiming the good news and healing people. Now Herod the Tetrarch heard about everything that was happening, and he was thoroughly perplexed because some people were saying that John had been raised from the dead, while others were saying that Elijah had appeared, and still others that one of the prophets of long ago had risen. Herod said, "I had John beheaded, but who is this about whom I hear such things?" So Herod wanted to learn about Jesus. When the apostles returned, they told Jesus everything they had done. Then he took them with him, and they withdrew privately to a town called Bethsaida. But when the crowds found out, they followed him. He welcomed them, spoke to them about the kingdom of God, and cured those who needed healing. Now the day began to draw to a close, so the 12 came and said to Jesus, "Send the crowd away, so they can go into the surrounding villages and countryside and find lodging and food, because we are in an isolated place." But he said to them, "You give them something to eat." They replied, "We have no more than 5 loaves and 2 fish, unless we go and buy food for all these people." Now about 5,000 men were there. Then he said to his disciples, "Have them sit down in groups of about 50 each." So they did as Jesus directed, and the people all sat down. Then he took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke them. He gave them to the disciples to set before the crowd. They all ate and were satisfied, and what was left over was picked up, 12 baskets of broken pieces. This seems like 3 distinct stories, and yet all 3 of them kind of lead into each other. It's like an extended story that includes 3 different acts. And each of these stories, even though they seem disconnected, connect around the theme of a plenty mindset versus a scarcity mindset. So the passage begins. Jesus has his disciples, his 12 closest followers, and he gives them the ability and the assignment to go out and do the types of things that he's been doing. But he gives them this caveat: you can't bring anything with you. You're not going to have any food. You're not going to have any money. You're not going to have any clothing. You have no idea where you're going to be staying. They are in the definition of scarcity. They have nothing other than the clothes on their back and the shoes on their feet. Don't bring extra clothes either. They're in the definition of scarcity. And yet, when they go out and they're living in this scarcity, what they find as they do this is that they still are going to have everything that they need in order to do what they have been called to do. So that's like Act 1. Then Act 2 is we shift to the king of Israel at this time, king of Israel, put in quote marks, Herod the Tetrarch. So Herod was technically the king of Israel at this time, but he was more of like a puppet. The Roman Empire was really in charge at this time, and they allowed someone like Herod to continue to be the king of the Jews, just to kind of make things go smoothly in that area, but really he didn't have any power of his own. So here he is sitting in his throne, and he has material plenty, but he is scarce in actual power, and he's looking out and hearing these stories of Jesus and his followers who have nothing but scarcity, but are gathering all of these people, and he's like, what is the deal with this? They have nothing, and yet they have all of these people who are aligning with them and following them. They're collecting all of this plenty and power. I need to hear more about this person and this movement. That is Act 2. Then there is Act 3, which is famously known as the feeding of the 5,000. You very well may have heard of this story before. So Jesus' followers had been out. They had been experiencing absolute scarcity. They had been doing the ministry that Jesus had been doing. They finally arrive back, and they report back into Jesus about all the things that have happened, all the amazing things that they've done, and Jesus is super excited to hear it, and he says, we're going on a retreat because you need some rest. And so they go to this town, Bethsaida, which is the house of fish. That's what the word Bethsaida means. They're going to go and relax, and they're going to share their stories, but they're going to make sure that they can recover from all that time that they spent away. Well, what do they find? There's people already there waiting for them. And it's not that it's like a handful of groupies. There are thousands of people who have got wind that Jesus and his closest followers are going to be in this town. And when they show up, there are thousands of people there waiting for them. It says 5,000 men. That number does not include women and children. So we're talking 10,000, 12,000, 15,000 people. Imagine getting home from a long work trip when you've been promised rest, and suddenly you're thrown into this thing where there are thousands of people who are going to have some sort of expectation of you or the people who are closest to you. Not super relaxing, right? Well, we've got Jesus, and Jesus does not send them away. Jesus teaches them, and he does some healings. It's clear that he's okay with these people being here. But as the day wears on, the disciples, Jesus' followers, start getting worn out. They just want a little bit of rest. They've been gone for all this time. It's been a really long day. And these people, these men who have been in absolute scarcity, who have had no food and nowhere to stay, turn to Jesus and say, all these people have no food and nowhere to stay. We think the best thing to do would be to send them away so that they can have some food and a place to stay. To which Jesus replies, nah, you're going to feed them. And so we have these tired, exhausted men who have been out on their mission, who have come back, who are expecting rest, who have moved through this point of scarcity, and they look at the crowds who are out there, and they look at the food that's in front of them. They have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, and they say, there is no possible way that this is enough for these people. There is no possible way that we have enough. Sometimes the stories of the Bible, the stories of the Bible are very different when you get into the details and why these stories are being told. Sometimes the stories of the Bible, it makes very clear that the point is to tell about a literal event that happened. And the point of it being told is to know that this literal event happened. There's other times, however, that there's a story of the Bible where it's like, well, it might not have literally happened, but this story is being constructed in such a way for you to understand something deeper that's going on here, some sort of deeper spiritual truth. And then there's other times where it's a combination of those two things. Yes, some of these things literally happened. The point is to know that they happened, to know those details, but also to know that there's a deeper spiritual truth going on here. The feeding of the 5,000, again, many of you, if not most of you, have probably heard some version of this story. It has the distinction of being the only story that appears in all 4 of the biographies about the life of Jesus, except for him dying and rising again. This is the only other story that appears in each of the 4 versions, which tells me that this story was somehow important. It tells me that there were enough reputable people, enough reputable sources that were able to say, okay, we need to make sure that we record this story and these details so that people can know that some version of this story actually happened. The literal nature of this story is somehow important here. At the same time, I don't think that the point of this story, the point of it being passed down and that it literally happened, was so that we would know that, oh, a long time ago in a land far away, Jesus miraculously provided for these people. I also don't think that the point is here and now, when we have some sort of material needs, God is going to miraculously provide for us if we just have enough faith. I do not think that that is the reason that this event happened, nor that this story gets passed down. What I am convinced is that what Jesus was doing and what he was trying to help these people understand and also his followers understand, and then the author of Luke and the other biographers, why they continued to tell this story was to say that the grace of God, the goodness of God has no bounds. It has no ending. It's not as if we give too much and we're going to run out. The goodness of God is still there, and it allows us to know that for ourselves and for us to know that we can continue to share the goodness of God without end as well. There's always enough of God's blessing to go around. Now, I want to acknowledge that there is such a thing as material scarcity. There are people who do not have enough. In our modern moral world, no one should be too poor to live. And yet in our modern world, there are many people who are too poor to live, and that maybe says something about the morality of our world. The lack of, the actual material scarcity actually, I think, points to something else in our modern world where we have more wealth, we have more ability to do more things than ever before. And what it says is that most of us do not have scarcity. Most of us have plenty. And so what that means is the scarcity is not a physical thing for us. It is not a material thing for us. Most of us have a scarcity mindset, not a material scarcity. In our place, where we live, in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, with all sorts of modern technology, it is actually that wealth, that plenty of things that makes us feel, if we lose just a little bit of it, like everything is insecure. It seems like it doesn't make sense, but because we have so much, just losing a bit of it makes us feel less secure. It makes us feel like things are scarce when they are not at all. A couple years ago, a Stanford or Harvard doctor named Ann Lemke wrote a book called Dopamine Nation. Have any of you heard of this book? And she talked about in this world of absolute wealth, in this country of huge wealth and huge technological advancements, how we can feel like we don't have enough. And it's actually because we have more than we've ever had before, that losing just a bit of it makes it feel to us, makes us have the mindset of not having enough. So here's what she says in her book. She says, it makes intuitive sense that when resources are scarce, people are more invested in immediate gains and are less confident that those rewards will still be forthcoming in some distant future. The question is, why do so many of us living in rich nations with abundant material resources nonetheless operate in our daily lives with a scarcity mindset? Next slide. Maybe. As we have seen, having too much material wealth can be as bad as having too little. Dopamine overload impairs our ability to delay gratification, social media exaggeration, and post-truth politics, let's call it what it is, lying, amplifying our sense of scarcity. The result is that even amidst plenty, we feel impoverished. Just as it is possible to have a scarcity mindset amidst plenty, it is also possible to have a plenty mindset amidst scarcity. The feeling of plenty comes from a source beyond the material world, believing in or working towards something outside of ourselves and fostering a life rich in human connectedness and meaning, can function as a social glue by giving us a plenty mindset even in the midst of abject poverty. Sometimes it's not a change in actual situation, but a change in simple mindset and perspective that can help us move from scarcity to plenty. I did not read the subtitle of this book. The subtitle of Room on Our Rock is There Are Two Sides to Every Story. So yeah, that was the end of the book, but the last page actually says, no room on this rock? Can it be true? Read back to front for another point of view. Exact same words. Ready? Now turn around. As you can plainly see, you have to leave right now. You have to leave your home. This is no place to be. Make our rock your home. You know you can't. Go back to your own. This rock is ours. You're welcome here. You'll never hear us say, shoo, go away. There's space for plenty more. So it's ridiculous to say, there's no room on our rock. A little bit different, right? The situation doesn't necessarily have to change, but the mindset, the simple mindset can move from, oh, I do not have enough, so I cannot share more, to I have plenty, and that means I can open myself up to more people, to doing more. Once again, I don't think that Jesus' followers were being mean or malicious in trying to turn away the crowds. I think they were super tired. Anybody empathize with that? I think they were overwhelmed, but I don't think they were being mean or malicious. What I think is that their understanding of the goodness of God was too small. And it meant that their goodness, their ability to grow goodness in and through themselves was also too small. And far too often, I think that we find ourselves in the exact same position where it is just a mindset change, where we think we don't have enough because we are going without some sort of limited amount that we're used to, and it means that our understanding of goodness is too small. That mindset, that type of scarcity mindset, has real implications. It does something to us, and it does something to our world too. It makes us like clutch our purses and clutch our pearls. It makes us turn away people who are different from us. It makes us build walls to keep people out, as if that's going to help. But a plenty mindset does something to us too. And it does something to our world as well. A plenty mindset helps us grow in grace and love and generosity. A plenty mindset helps us open ourselves up to people who are different from us. And rather than building walls, it helps us to create new entry points for people to actually come in. And so my prayer for us is that we can be those types of people and that type of church with a plenty mindset that says the goodness of God is big enough for everyone. So may we understand that goodness, and may that goodness move in and through us. May that be so.
Our last song we're going to sing together today is one that we've done a lot this year, and one that has become sort of a theme song for us as a congregation and for this series. Inclusion is a big thing for us, constantly looking outside of our boundaries to see who's not here that wants to be here, who's not feeling comfortable yet, who's not feeling welcome yet. Who are we uncomfortable welcoming that maybe we need to open ourselves up to? and we make room and we build a wider, longer, bigger table for all. Now, even though this song may be really familiar to you by now, I hope that as we sing it today, you find maybe a different lyric or something that sticks out to you, something that maybe gives you pause to ask a new question or to see something differently. Let's be thoughtful of that as we sing today, Bigger Table.
Grace heals the fault lines in me, time and time again. It welcomes me into a house for the hungry, a well for the thirsty, where all saints come together, shoulder to shoulder. Waiting next to me, we gotta make some room for each other. Let my enemy be my family, fill my cup till it's running over. There's an empty seat waiting next to me, we gotta make some room for each other. Let my enemy be my family, fill my cup till it's running over. As our kids sing it out, kids. A house for the hungry, a well for the thirsty, where all saints come together, shoulder to shoulder, a welcome for the traveler, new wine for the vineyard. In all things, God is able. Love has a bigger table. Love has a bigger table.
Y'all can actually have a seat. Before you talk, I'm going to talk. Surprise.
I hate having to come up here and ruin the energy by doing announcements, so I'm going to try to make them as quick
Wait,
and
I got something to say
You're-
first. No, but stay here. Stay here. You can have a seat for a second. Sorry. I didn't say that clearly. Surprise. I'm interrupting
I don't
you.
like surprises.
I know. Too bad. Hey, October is a lot things. October celebrates and remembers a lot of things. One of the things you may or may not know October is Pastor Appreciation Month. The little church elves have been at work, getting a little something, something for you and Chelsea. I am going to be kind to Chelsea and not make her come up here. But Chelsea, we're celebrating Pastor Appreciation Month, but you don't have to come up here.
We appreciate you by not inviting you up
Yes.
here. Well, thank you.
Hey, like, for real, I don't know if you know how much Jeremy as our pastor and Chelsea as your title isn't kids pastor, but Chelsea absolutely pastors our children. How much they do for our congregation and for our community. I think the only person who's here more than Jeremy and Chelsea is Warren. We should have a Warren Appreciation Day too. But
One of the staff children thought Warren lived here.
we have this running joke that like Jeremy's often doing things that don't fall under his like job title. And I'll be like, what are you doing? Like this morning he was crawling under the stage looking for something. And the joke is other duties as assigned. And that is often the job of a pastor. There's a lot of work they do that goes unseen. So we just want to thank you all, especially for you all having a rough year with things going on in your life and still pastoring us through it, still leading the church, anchoring us as a church, planning for the future, guiding us forward, and still pastoring us in all of our tender moments week to week too. So we love you both. We love you, Peter's family. Thank you so much for your leadership. There's a gift in there for you guys to go have a night out, and you know the key burgers are good for babysitting. So can we give them some thanks and some love?
Yeah, I wasn't prepared for that.
Y'all, this place literally doesn't exist without these two people. Literally doesn't exist. So, give Katie some credit, too. She's a pastor, too, right?
Well, it doesn't exist without you either. So I have the honor of being able to help kick this thing off and to be able to help lead this thing as it continues to grow. But you all make this possible. You continue to make this possible, which is a great transition to our stewardship campaign. So we are in the midst of our stewardship campaign where you as contributors to this church who continue to help us grow goodness have an opportunity for you to say, these are the ways in which I am going to help to make this thing continue to exist, not only for you, not only for us, but for more people who we hope to continue to invite in, the people who are arriving next. So if you have a giving history with us, you probably received something in the mail this past week talking about your giving history and what you might consider for the year ahead. I would encourage you to take a look at that. If you didn't receive that, but you consider this to be your church home, I'd also love for you to consider what is the commitment that I can make to this church in the year ahead financially so that you can plan, but also so that we can plan where we're going in the next year. If you have more questions about that, you can go to that link for the Crowded Table Stewardship Campaign. Number 2 is get involved. Getting involved is one of the best ways for you to use your gifts and passions and also get to meet other people. One of the phrases that we try to use around here around getting involved is participation is the new perfection. We don't need a bunch of professionals. We don't need a bunch of people who have all of the right skills, who are always going to get everything right. We want people who are excited about an opportunity to use their gifts and passions to contribute to the life of this church. So if you're not yet in a volunteer role, we would love to help you find one. The kids are growing restless. I'm going to make this that much quicker. We are now also moving into our Grove Group season. Grove groups are the places where you can gather with a smaller number of people. The primary purpose of these groups is not content, but for you to build meaningful relationships with a select group of people that is like your select group of people who are a part of the church. When you have things come up in your life, when you have prayer requests, when you need things, you can go to this group of people. You know they are going to be there for you. We're going to be completely rebooting our Grove groups starting this month. So if you are not in a Grove group, even if you are in a Grove group, you should go and re-sign up so that we can be launching these groups out of fall, hopefully next month. We're going to be talking about that again all of this next month. As a tag, these are the 3 things. We've got 2 other things that I need to hit on. Our teenager Grove group is meeting next Sunday immediately after worship right here. So if you are a teenager, if you have teenagers in your family or in your sphere of influence who would be interested in building meaningful relationships with other teenagers who are part of this church, make sure they are here for that. The last thing is what? Pop-up pumpkin patch. 6 days away. The current RSVP count is at 235 going, but 4,500 interested. Woof. This is going to be a huge event. Thank you to everybody who has already signed up to be volunteers. That's a huge deal. If you are capable, a couple things that if you're not already connected to these, but you might be able to help, we are still looking for help on Friday morning-ish. We don't know the exact time, but moving pumpkins out there to in here because we need to make sure that the squirrels don't eat them overnight. Then on Saturday morning, we have to move them all from in here back outside and across the property. If you're available for either of those things, that would be a huge help. Also, immediately after worship today, we have some people who are going to be packing bags full of stuff that are going to go out to everybody who shows up. If you're willing to help pack some bags, we would love some help with that as well. It's going to be a big event. If nothing else, we hope that you show up for it. We hope that you tell other people about it. I'm really excited not only for the event, but to be able to stand up here next Sunday and talk about what an awesome event it was. Okay, that's all the details you need. So, I'll have you stand up again. You can extend your hands as you're able to receive this blessing. As we go out from here, may we be the type of people and the type of church that has a plenty mindset, overflowing with grace and love and generosity and making room for anyone and everyone who comes our way. May that be so.